Well, it's a beautiful day here on the farm, and sunny skies, and hardly a cloud in the sky. There's some contrails over there from some jets making their way across the sky. There's an intermittent breeze and a few gusts, and nothing really planned today. I'm just going to kind of knock around a little bit. This is going to be one of these days where, you know, I put in a lot of time, but I don't get a lot of work done. As most of you know or have figured out, we don't have enough barn space, shelter space to park all of our equipment in the dry. At least until our hay barn is somewhat emptied out. So it has to sit out in the weather. I mean, here's the Vermeer, and down there's the Massey Ferguson, and the Crohn's right behind it. But I want to measure this Vermeer right here. I want to know what the depth is this way, because I believe I can make a space in my barn to park it. But I'd like to know how wide it is, and then I'll measure that against my barn. So I stretched the tape measure out here, and you know, this is 0, if you will, down to the tape measure. And then over here, we're just a little, it's hard to see, but right there is 8 feet. So we're just a shade under 8 feet. So I might be able to tuck this thing up against the wall on the inside of the barn. I have to make a little room from some of the hay we've sold, and but I wanted to make sure I had an idea of you know, what the depth of the Vermeer was before I attempted to put it in the barn. And I don't even know if I'll do that today. The creek's got plenty of water in it. This is about where we like to see it. The bed's full. You know, it's not so dry around here right now that you could just, you know, walk across the creek. In years past, we would have brought our cattle, which grazed all summer, back over that hill in those pastures. We would have brought them down into this field, and and there's another field in behind me, and they would have grazed in here and watered down there along that creek. This old barn was the main structure on this farm, I guess, aside from the, you know, the farmhouse, and it would be piled full of hay, square bales, all the way to the top. And we used to feed those things to the cattle. When we brought them off the hill to graze out on this pasture like we talked about earlier, I would take an old Ford 3000, it wasn't so old then, Ford 3000 tractor, and hook a hay wagon to it, and I'd pile some square bales on it, and I'd come down through here from that old barn. I'd come down through here and put it in low range first gear and just let it crawl out, you know, through the field, whichever direction I was going. And I'd jump off that tractor and jump on the hay wagon by myself, and I'd cut those square bales and let them just kind of feed off the back of the wagon. We never tried to make a pile of hay on the ground, because the cattle would bed in it and then they wouldn't eat it. So we tried to scatter it around. Of course, you know, now you see round bales where they unroll them, and they unroll them, you know, a long ways. And but I'd get off that Ford and jump on the hay wagon and start letting square bales off of it, and then if the tractor started going like this or like this, I'd jump back on it, straighten it out. And the whole time You know, I had my eyes on the bull because he didn't like the tractor, the wagon, or me. All he liked was heifers and the hay. This old barn's about to fall down. I'd like to save it, but it's not very friendly for tractors and equipment and things like that. It's a lot of manual labor moving hay to start with, but then when you got to move it from here to over there to back there to up there and so on. And there's some other reasons not to try to restand this barn and make it like a new one, but I haven't totally ruled it out. One of the things we got here is an old Cub Cadet 109, a hydrostatic tractor. It's a pretty good tractor in its day. I need to get it out from under here. And I don't know how it works on your farm, but on our farm, we have locks like that one. And we have no idea where the keys got to. And then we have keys where we have no idea where the lock is. And from my grandfather, through my dad, and up through me, and probably my kids, we could probably fill, you know, a half-quart jar of keys. And here's just a handful of keys I got right now. I mean, that goes to one of the buildings. That's just a hodgepodge of keys. John Deere key. This is the key to my big Massey Ferguson. I'm going to try this key on that lock. And then I'm going to try this key in the ignition. These tractors don't take like a modern day key. I think they call them Indac. So I'm going to try these two keys and just see if I can get out of the dugout to the plate to see if I can take a swing and get this thing out of here. Well, that key don't work. There's the decal, 109 hydrostatic International Cub Cadet. And that key don't work. So one thing we have up here is we have a master key for all the padlocks on this place. I'm going to see if it works. Dang, that key fits all the padlocks up here. So I got to find an ignition key or replace the module, and I've got a spare. I've got several of these old Cub Cadets, and you've seen some of the videos on the wheel horse tractors. And I got an old Simplicity, and but even with the lock gone, I don't think this tractor's going anywhere. So I wasn't able to pursue, you know, trying to start it, and I have a jumper for it and some fresh gas. But, you know, I did get something done. I got the lock taken off. I think these are nice looking tractors. Just in case anybody wants to know, that key I tried just now was the last of many I've tried on that lock. So we were kind of at the end of the rope on keys to fit that lock. So that's why I went ahead and cut it. I don't think I'd cut a lock willy-nilly unless I just exhausted all avenues as far as a key went, which we did, and ultimately had to rely on this key. I had a few people ask me just friends and some family. Weren't you going too fast when you were bush hogging this little field right here? And you can see that in my another Hey Customer video. And if I can figure out a way to put one of those fancy little things that goes across the screen up here, I'll try to add it to take you back to that video if you want. And the answer is no, we weren't going too fast. We're not mowing grass. We're not mowing a grass or a golf course. What we're doing is we're just trying to knock down this kind of stuff, and it's all dry and brittle, and it doesn't take much to to cut it and knock it down. And you can kind of see it looks a little tall. When I say tall, I'm talking about, yay tall. But we set the bush hog high to begin with, and really what I was trying to do is to make this field look like this and not like this or that over there. So I accomplished my goal, and no different strokes for different folks, but I thought I would explain myself for those who wanted to know. So where I plan on putting the Vermeer for the winter, I think, is going to be right in here. Put it on the back of this tractor, back in, and come around backwards and set it right in here. And see if I can do this holding the camera at the same time. When we measured before, I needed about 8 feet, and right there's 8 feet. So, kind of close to the edge here. So I think I'll be all right. I just need to get these bottom bales up and moved out. Hopefully a customer will come and take them, so I don't need to stack them and restack them later. I'm not going to throw this. So I'm not going to throw this lock in the trash right here, because now that I've cut it, it's a foregone conclusion that even maybe tonight I will find the keys to this lock. And that's kind of the way it works up here. And so what I'll do is, when I do find the keys, I'll throw the keys away and the lock, and that way there won't be a set of keys and no lock to confound and confuse the next generation. Anybody need a couple of 50-gallon plastic barrels? So let's take the John Deere we'll ride over the hill and see what's going on back there. We don't need a mask to knock around up here on the farm, but it is about 54 degrees, so a heavier shirt would be nice on my arms. Summertime we got sunscreen, wintertime we got jackets and coats. Here we go. The state came along not too long ago, and they went all up and down this road on both sides, and they kind of cut out a lot of the brush. Right here where I'm standing, you can probably see, or maybe you can't, but there's a water trough over there, and there used to be a couple of them right down in here, and the cattle would come down, and we pumped water from the creek over to here and right through this little gap, and there was a trail that led up to the top of the ridge, and you know, the cattle would come down through there too. And they'd come all at once. It'd just be a certain time of day, and I guess one cow would decide it needed a drink, and it was like a stampede coming off that hill or coming out of those woods. And when I was a boy, we used to take and climb ourselves up on the top of this rock. And this is lamb's quarter, I believe. We always called them stickweed. And we would take these stickweeds, and they'd be right down there watering, and we'd give these things a hurl like they was spears and hit those cattle in the back, and they could care less as long as they were getting a drink. We have a combination lock on these gates, and that kind of gets us out of the key situation like we had down there on the Cub Cadet. But one thing I never know is when I turn this lock up, because different family members use it, is when I flip the lock up, are the numbers going to be right side up or upside down? Because when they're upside down, and then I got to do this to get to them, and my older age and my sight going downhill like everything else, it can be a little tedious. So it turns out it's right side up. One of the things I thought about doing is painting a red dot, a red circle, just something red right across that face, so different ones would know that was the top side of the lock when they go to lock it up, especially in the dark. That seemed kind of violent, but it makes for good video, I guess. There's a close-up of those troughs, and those two right there were down there. And then this was a bathtub I picked up somewhere sometime, and my dad and my brother took that thing and kind of rocked it up and made it look pretty nice. It wasn't too long after we did this that the cattle went away. So, you know, 3 times this summer I've had this gate open, and I've come down off the hill and gone back to my barn over there, or back to the main house, and then I come up a little bit later in the evening, you know, maybe a half hour or an hour, to shut this gate, and I find it already shut. Not locked, but just shut. And this gate, even though we got a rope on it, it's not exactly a gate that blows shut. And so this gate will be closed, and it'll be set, not just closed, but it'll be sitting right on that block. And I thought, well, maybe one of the neighbors drives by and sees it open and they close it for me, which would be really nice. But it also makes me wonder, you know, is there a ghost up here? Is my great-grandfather or somebody up here concerned that the gate's open and they shut it for me, even though they've been long gone for years and years? I'm kind of leaning towards one of the neighbors closes it, or the wind actually does blow it closed. But it is a little bit unnerving to come up here and see that gate shut when I didn't shut it and I'm the only one on the farm. One of the things we have on this farm is kind of a little makeshift shooting range. We got some targets out through there, and couple of benches back there, and I don't get up here and shoot, but my brother and my boys do, and it's an enjoyable thing. We also shoot some skeet, and over here where you see all the autumn olives, there's actually some loblolly pines in there, and they're really coming up here. And all that used to be pasture when I was a boy, and it grew up and we had it clear cut, and can't really get a tractor on it, so we're letting it go back into hopefully loblolly pines. Maybe another generation can, when they find all the keys to the locks, they come in here and cut some timber for a little money. I don't know if you can see the shooting range, but you can see somebody's doing a pretty good job. I guess that's a 22 rifle. There's another one. Nothing fancy. Just a sheet on an old piece of plywood stuck to some 2x4s and some stakes in the ground. This must have been a really good target. It was cut out. I'm sure it went back home for some bragging rights. So this spot right here, it goes on out and then down over the hill, and try to keep this bush hogged. Eventually, I hope to make hay on it, and it's a nice level spot. A little rolly when you get on back on the backside, and obviously there's a limit to how far I would go up here, especially with kicker wagons. One thing we got to do is we got to work on the road that leads up here by that little shooting range. So at some point there'll probably be a bulldozer in here making a nice wide firm road where we can get our equipment in here. Right now I suppose I could get my New Holland 68 in here, but I prefer to be able to bring the Big Massey and the Crone and the equipment that is dead nuts reliable, knock on wood, and can get the job done quickly. This might be a little better view of where I was just at, and like I said, we bush hogged all of this and all the way up on the hill and all the way out through there. And I've got a video on bush hogging this. I just haven't put it together yet, but I will. On these steeper parts right in here, when you come off that flat down there, I'd like to use a round baler when and if we ever put this in hay. And the problem with the round baler is there's only so much acreage up here, and there's only so much revenue to be made, and the price on the round bale is half or less, per volume or pound, however you want to put it, than a square bale of hay. So it's hard to pencil out a round bale and have a round baler unless you got cattle, and we just don't have cattle. So it may be more advantageous for us to invest in a 15-foot bat wing, just a cheap 15-foot bat wing to keep this stuff mowed down, but also, do it in bigger chunks than a 5 or 6 foot bush hog, which we have now. And just kind of keep it mowed down. And from growing up, and we'll overseed it in Timothy for sure. We might put some red clover in here just to try to fix a little bit of nitrogen. Right here is the field you see me bale on. We kind of call it our high ground, and there's a few other names for it, but we bush hogged around on the back side of this and on the lower side of it, which I'll show you here in just a little bit. So right in here and going all the way out that way, you know, we're trying to keep this maintained. This will make an excellent hayfield. I've already done a video on this, and again, if I can make one of those magic things appear up here, I've already put up a video kind of mowing this along with some other activities, but I think this would make a great Timothy field. I think I've talked about this in other videos, but in regards to that bush hog not necessarily cutting super clean, we don't really sharpen the blades on it, and the reason for that is when we cut these autumn olives like this right here, and I'm sure I've mentioned that in other videos or videos I'm going to put up. First of all, we cut high so that when your wheel comes over, it kind of mashes the roots coming out of the ground, the trunk of the autumn olive. It kind of mashes it over. But I believe it to be true. I read this somewhere one time that if you can shatter the stump like you see right here, if you can shatter that, it'll kill the plant down to the roots. And I don't know why that is, or you know, like I say, I believe it to be true, but having a blade that doesn't cut like a knife gives us this shatter, but it also prevents us from having a real sharp stick sticking out of the ground that could scuttle a tractor tire, not unlike a shed deer antler. One thing we do on this farm is we cut a lot of firewood, and my oldest boy actually cut all this by himself, and all of this down here, he cut it back in the spring, and we need to haul it out of here. You know, there's firewood going down through here, and there's a stack of firewood. I've got a log splitter, but he likes to split it by hand. I've got a Fisker's axe, splitting axe, and he likes to listen to his radio and be up here kind of in the quietness by himself and kind of get away from things and cut firewood and split it. And he's got stuff on out through here. That's cut, and some of it needs to be split yet. We never cut a living tree. If there's a reason to do it, we will, but the weather seems to bring down trees. You can see trees laying over, trees on the ground, and pretty much all of this is oak, and we just take whatever the forest gives us and cut it into firewood every winter. Every time we get a hard freeze, ice and heavy snow and wind, and every year our wood supply is replenished more than we could cut and use if we wanted to. Right over there is where we were, and we made our way up there and then back over on the other side of that hill, and now we're kind of coming down, and again we're maintaining all of this right in here, all the way up to the woods and all the way down to the bottom, all the way across. for potential hayfield. It gets dark quick here in December, but we clipped this field earlier in the summer, and hopefully this will be a nice hayfield one of these days. We have to work on the road coming into it. Again, there's going to be some bulldozer work with that. But overall, it looks pretty good. It doesn't look like the Alamanos have come back since we cut it earlier in the year. There's a rock pile my great-grandfather piled up. Some free firewood that's fallen right here. And this is a field, one of these days we want to put in Timothy. It's just a small field, but I think this will be a nice spot for Timothy. Back to the house. It's getting dark and it's getting colder. The gate's still open. My grandfather said, don't ever buy a farm with a highway going through it. He also said there's a big flat zero in farming. Alright, that's the video for today. Kind of knocking around on the farm, putting in a lot of time, not getting a lot done. And John Deere's cooling down a little bit. I like to let the turbo cool before I shut it down. And a few memories on the farm I've had over the years, and a little bit of the property we're maintaining back over the hill. So it's going to be clear tonight and cold. It's already getting cold. I need a little more jacket than what I've got on right now. But again, I appreciate you watching these videos. Feel free to comment, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and we'll talk to you later. Dang, the gate's closed. Actually, I closed it.